I thought my wedding day would be perfect. I imagined laughter, love, and memories that would last a lifetime. But in a single moment, everything turned into chaos. My sister Brianna smashed the cake into my face, laughing as I fell backward, blood mixing with frosting. Everyone brushed it off as a joke, and I said nothing, until the next morning at the ER. When the doctor stared at my X-ray, he immediately called 911. What he saw revealed a shocking truth that no one, not even me, was ready for. On the morning of my wedding, I stared at myself in the mirror and hardly recognized the woman looking back. My name is Claire Thompson, and today should have been the happiest day of my life. Instead, I felt the familiar knot of anxiety in my stomach, the one that always appeared when my sister, Brianna, was near. She had been my shadow and my tormentor since childhood, and despite promises that she would behave today, I couldn't shake the gnawing sense that something would go wrong. The bedroom where I grew up smelled faintly of lavender, mixed with the residual scent of my mother's perfume. I adjusted my veil, trying to steady my shaking hands. The wedding dress was exactly what I had dreamed of, soft ivory silk that hugged my waist and flowed into delicate lace at the hem. Ethan, my fiancé, had been waiting downstairs with the groomsmen, sending me text messages every few minutes to reassure me. I loved him, deeply. I wanted to focus on him, not Brianna. But I couldn't ignore her. She had a way of making every moment about her, twisting attention and laughter into a weapon. The ceremony itself was flawless. Sunlight poured through the tall church windows, painting patterns on the floor. Guests smiled, tears glistened in their eyes, and I felt a brief, perfect moment of peace as I walked down the aisle toward Ethan. His eyes were locked on mine, filled with tears I couldn't help but return. At that moment, for a brief second, I felt like everything would be okay. Like maybe, finally, Brianna's shadow wouldn't touch me today. After exchanging vows, we moved to the reception, a lakeside venue that shimmered under the late afternoon sun. The water reflected the pink and orange hues of the sky, and everywhere I looked, people were smiling. Or pretending to, in some cases. Brianna was already at the microphone for her toast, her words dripping with sarcasm. She made jokes about my uptight nature, and teased about how surprised everyone was that Ethan had actually agreed to marry me. People laughed. I forced a smile, swallowing the anger rising in my chest. Ethan's hand found mine under the table, a silent reminder that I wasn't alone. Then it was time for the cake. A magnificent four-tier creation, adorned with pink sugar flowers and intricate lace patterns. I had spent months designing it, and seeing it in person made my chest tighten with excitement. The photographer guided us to stand in front of it for the classic cake-cutting shot. Everyone gathered around, cameras ready. I was supposed to be radiant, joyous, the bride of the hour. Brianna stepped closer than necessary, brushing her arm against mine. My stomach twisted. She had that look in her eye, the one that always preceded trouble. I tried to ignore it. I thought maybe she was just excited. Then, without warning, she struck. Her hand shot out, and she shoved my face straight into the cake. I felt the cold frosting smash across my nose and mouth, my balance tipping. I fell backward, the world spinning. People gasped, some laughed, and then I felt the sharp sting, blood trickling down my cheek, mingling with the frosting. The room blurred around me. Brianna doubled over with laughter, clutching the table for support. "Relax," she said between giggles. "It was just a joke." I tried to rise, but my head throbbed violently, my vision swimming. Ethan's voice, panicked, reached me. "Claire, are you okay?" I nodded shakily, not trusting my voice to speak. Someone dabbed at my face, wiping the mixture of blood and frosting, but the damage wasn't just cosmetic. Something felt off. Wrong. My mother muttered a weak scolding to Brianna, who rolled her eyes and smirked. "She's fine," Brianna said, dismissing everyone's concern with a flick of her hand. Stop overreacting. The rest of the night passed in a surreal haze. I changed into a spare dress, still sticky from frosting, still burning with humiliation. Guests whispered behind their hands. People tried to make jokes, and I laughed when they expected me to, hiding the mixture of rage and fear boiling inside me. Ethan, refusing to leave my side, insisted we go to the emergency room. I resisted at first, but the pounding in my skull and the dizziness convinced me otherwise. The ER smelled like antiseptic and coffee, familiar and sterile. The nurse cleaned the wound near my hairline and asked gently what had happened. Ethan's voice was careful. Wedding accident. I didn't correct him. They ordered an X-ray. I sat alone, the wedding dress sticking to my skin, frosting crusted into the fabric, feeling smaller than I had since childhood. The nurse left, and I waited. Minutes felt like hours. The doctor returned, holding the X-ray. His expression froze, and he stared at it longer than necessary. Then he left without explanation. 10 minutes passed. 20. When he came back, he didn't come alone. He picked up the phone and called 911. That moment, sitting in a curtained hospital room with the reality of police officers arriving, shattered something inside me. Brianna's joke wasn't just cruel. It was part of a pattern of abuse I had endured for years, a history no one had seen or believed. And now, finally, someone was seeing it. 2 officers entered the room, calm but authoritative. Ethan stood behind me, confused, and I clutched his hand, feeling a mixture of relief and terror. The doctor explained that the X-ray revealed multiple fractures, some old, some new. They were injuries that could not have been caused by a single fall or accident. "Has anyone ever harmed you before?" the doctor asked gently. I hesitated. Habit had trained me to say no, to keep quiet, to protect my family's image. But the weight of truth pressed down too heavily. I began to speak, trembling. I told them about my childhood, about Brianna's cruelty, how she pushed, slapped, and humiliated me, always disguised as a joke or a sibling quarrel. About the times I fell downstairs at home, the bruises I explained away, the whispers that followed me everywhere. About how my parents always believed her over me. Each word was heavy, painful, but freeing. Ethan squeezed my hand tighter, silent support grounding me as I spoke the truth I had buried for years. The officers took notes. Statements were collected. Witnesses were identified. Brianna's behavior had a clear pattern. This wasn't an isolated incident. It was a lifetime of manipulation and abuse, culminating in the violent cake attack. Brianna was arrested the next morning. The news spread fast. Family members called, angry and bewildered. My mother cried, insisting I was exaggerating. My father asked why I waited so long to speak up. I said nothing. Silence was my answer, louder than any defense I could muster. The investigation uncovered more than anyone expected. Old ER reports, school nurse records, witnesses from childhood who had seen injuries they never reported. Brianna's pattern of cruelty was undeniable. The video of the cake incident circulated online. People initially laughed at the footage, but slowed-down clips showed the force of the push, the sharp angle of impact, the blood and frosting mixing in a grotesque swirl. Public opinion shifted rapidly. Brianna tried to defend herself. She claimed accident, then prank, then blamed alcohol. The evidence didn't lie. The old injuries told the truth she couldn't escape. The police reports confirmed years of abuse hidden behind laughter and dismissive remarks. I didn't scream. I didn't plot immediate revenge. I didn't take pleasure in her downfall. Instead, I told the truth calmly, clearly, for the first time in my life. For the first time, someone finally believed me. At the trial, I wore a simple dress. No makeup hid the scar near my hairline. I spoke steadily, recounting years of emotional and physical abuse, detailing the cake incident and the patterns that led up to it. I saw Brianna's face only once, and she avoided my gaze completely. The sentence was severe but fair. Several years in prison with mandatory counseling, a restraining order, and probation terms designed to prevent her from harming anyone else. My parents did not attend the sentencing, sending messages of delayed acceptance and confusion. I didn't respond. Ethan and I stayed home for a while, postponing our honeymoon. We had to learn how to sit in silence together, to rebuild a sense of normalcy and safety. He never once asked why I hadn't spoken up sooner. He simply asked how he could support me now, and that was enough. Sometimes I think back to the cake, the laughter, the shock, and humiliation. I imagine the guests at the reception, thinking it was all a harmless joke. I remember the ER, the X-ray, the moment someone finally saw the truth. The real victory wasn't Brianna's arrest. It wasn't the public vindication. It was my freedom. For the first time in my life, I was seen. I was heard. I wasn't just Claire Thompson, Brianna's little sister, the victim everyone overlooked. I was Claire Thompson, survivor, bride, and woman reclaiming her life. Healing wasn't instant. The physical scars would fade eventually, but the emotional ones took longer. Therapy helped, learning to trust myself helped, and Ethan's unwavering support helped the most. I learned to recognize the warning signs, the manipulation, and the subtle cruelty hidden behind smiles and jokes. Brianna, meanwhile, faced her consequences. In prison, she had to confront herself, her actions, and the pattern of abuse she had created. I didn't celebrate her suffering, but I acknowledged it. Justice had been served in a measured, real way. Not vengeance, not malice, just truth and accountability. And when I finally returned to the lake where the reception had been, months later, the water reflected the sunlight just as it had on my wedding day. But this time, I felt nothing but peace. I had survived. I had spoken. I had reclaimed my life. I still wear a small scar near my hairline, a reminder of the day everything changed. The day Brianna smashed the cake, the day my parents dismissed my pain, and the day I finally said, enough. I am Claire Thompson. I am free. Moral lessons. Life will sometimes place people in your path who try to hurt you, even when you least expect it. But the most important thing is to stand up for yourself, speak your truth, and never let anyone diminish your worth. Your pain is valid, and your voice matters. Don't let fear, shame, or family loyalty keep you silent. Healing takes time, but every step you take toward protecting yourself and setting boundaries is a victory. Remember, strength isn't just surviving. It's reclaiming your life and refusing to let others define your story.